I'd love to shift gears and talk about health, man, because it came up. It came up earlier and on the back of your mask, and it's one of those things that comes up. We all acknowledge, men are killing themselves more often. We're dying earlier. We're suffering. Public health stats for men, American Academy. Institute of Boys and Men and Equimundo, all those reports not looking good. I would love to talk about that because I feel like it's something that in men's work we do not touch.
Yeah, I mean, as a medical professional, what are you like? What do you see it from one end, right? And I see it from the patient end usually, right? So, like, where do we want to go? Like, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, men are not going to the doctor. We
I'm that
don't.
man.
Yeah, right. Me too. And that's funny because I'm a medical student and I like using stories. And this one feels especially relevant as I feel it on the upper left part of my back. My partner found some off-colored splotches on my upper back about 2 weeks ago. And I talked to my PCP. He goes, "Let's go have you see a dermatologist." I went to see the dermatologist. They go, "Yeah, we're going to take those out and biopsy them." And I got the results back, about a week ago. And they said, "Those are precancerous. We need to cut them out." So I'm sitting here with 15 stitches in my back. Just this morning, I got these. It's something that on the drive home, was a long drive from the derm office. I was reflecting on, man, if not for a strong woman in my life, I wouldn't even care. I'd be like, oh, off-color patches, those just happen. We have those, whatever. And they were moderate precancerous, which means they have a strong chance of developing into a melanoma. Specifically, one of the things I wrote about for Hey Brother Co. in my piece about why men don't go to the doctor is this study that found, I think it was that melanomas happen about twice as often in women, but men die twice as much as women to melanoma. Very, very interesting, complex stat, but it speaks volumes about the ways in which we just do not care about our health. Ashanti, we do not. This is where I want to break in with research because there's not enough. I go to present my research proposals to different departments, and oftentimes, the way you do this in medicine is you show them current literature. Well, what does the current literature say? Well, the current literature says nothing because nobody cares. For the first time in history, we're turning more towards women's health. We're turning more towards women's bodily autonomy, which is phenomenal. We're talking about women's sexual health as more than just pregnancy and birth delivery, but we're not talking about men's health. We're not. We're letting these men kill themselves.
So, first of all, thank you. And when you talked about, like, you probably would have just let it go. You're like, oh, okay, no big deal. My personal story around this is that, like, let's say I have a high tolerance for pain, which I think I do.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, it'll get better.
Yeah.
It'll get, it's just, maybe take some Advil, maybe take some aspirin, we take some over the counter or something. Okay, I talked to the pharmacy at Walgreens. Hey, I got this little thing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, just take a little bit of that and take a little bit of that. And I'm like, which one should I take? Both of them? And I get my medical advice right there, and I buy the box of whatever, way too expensive, more than I want to pay, but it's better than the alternative in my mind, right? So I'm like trying to solve the problem. Now, I'm not against medicine. I've met people who were like, well, I don't like taking that medicine. I'm like, dude, your arm is falling off. Do you see?
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? It's actually hanging on the side. And they're like, no, it'll be okay. I put some ibuprofen on it. You're like, all right, brother, And I think, how often do we have men who hold us accountable? Like, I'm on a men's team. So if a man was talking about some pain, and men would ask, hey, have you got that checked out? And no one's going to mother you. Like, we use that language. No one's going to mother you in this space.
Yeah.
But men are going to ask you and call you in and say, hey, you said 2 weeks ago that thing was hurting. Did you not go do something about it? It's not to nag you. It's to say, like, let us hold each other accountable to being our best self. And I would sell you out if you told me you were in pain, you're not doing anything about it, and I just say, oh, okay, you're a tough guy. I would consider that selling you out. That's what we call it in our language. And so I think it happens because maybe how men were raised, right? Mm-hmm. Suck it up, man up.
Mm-hmm.
Grow some, right? Whatever they tell you in your community of how you were raised, it's also part of those things. And I know I only go when it hits level 8, 9, or 10. And I go there and I'm like, and they say, how does it feel? I'm like, like 8, 9, or 10. And I'm like, yeah, like 8, 9, or 10. And they're like, well, you don't look like you're in a lot of pain. I was like, well, I've been nursing it for, That's where it's at. I'm like, I wouldn't have come here if it wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm only here because I'm like I'm at the place, but because I'm not wincing or I'm not. I think sometimes they're looking for the external, and I'm like, no, it's been hurting for weeks. I just been holding the pain inside, and I wonder if those are some things that happen too. And when you said like men die twice as much from melanoma, maybe they saw it and they said the same thing. Oh, you know what? It'll be okay. I'll put a patch on it. I'll put some ointment on it, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I think without knowing and without having somebody in your life who's like, hey, maybe you should check that out. Maybe you don't want to check it out, but maybe you should check it out just for the sake of it doesn't make you weak or it doesn't make you soft. It doesn't make you less of a man to be like, I'm in pain. Pain is human. Same thing with emotion. Same thing with sadness and fear and worry. And if we use that, maybe, in the medical profession, if they can begin saying pain is human. It's not genderized. Pain. If you feel pain, yeah, I'm not gonna ever deliver a baby. I'm never gonna know that pain. But I know what it's like to have my leg swollen 3 times the size it normally is, and then go to the doctor and they're like, well, you don't look like you're in pain. I'm like, no, it's hurting really bad, and I think I'm having to like, should I scream? Should I scream? Should I yell? Should I? And I think I don't even. I wonder. My brother said his last thing. But my brother was stabbed in the butt recently, and my brother has his own challenges, that we've talked about many times, and he wants to leave the hospital early. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing, brother? Like, and I have to be careful not to get too frustrated because but I'm like, you're walking around the streets and you have been stabbed, and apparently the wound was pretty deep, and so it's just like, what is he feeling? Like either you're not feeling it or you have just turned off the fact that there's something there that is actually, it's actually visible, right? That you are, some of the pains are maybe more internal where you can't feel them as a, like my pain in my back. I can't show people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, it hurts.
Yeah.
And they almost sometimes are like, well, maybe. And you have to like, how do I explain it to you in a way that you get that I'm feeling this, and without having to raise my voice or like be squirming on the floor without, and so I just wonder how we communicate that,
Wow. I hope your brother's okay, first of all.
He's coming around. He's back. He's getting some help. So okay, I think the key is getting him some more help. But yeah,
man, there's this thing I think is really funny. There's this TikTok doctor who makes content. It's hilarious, and he came up with this thing called the farmer pain scale. So if a farmer comes into a rural clinic, and it's because he was in so much pain that he couldn't work anymore, you're like, oh, that's bad. But if a farmer comes into a clinic and he's in so much pain that his wife didn't have to drag him out there, you're like, oh, let's get the defibrillator. This is real bad. As men, we are not accustomed to taking care of ourselves. And I think there's a lot of unconscious items at play. I think it's even more implicit than just I have to prove that I can take this pain. I am manly. I don't need help. I think it's when you go to the hospital, here's what happens. You're seen by, most statistically, probably a male physician, which means you have to admit you're in pain to another man, right? Or you have to admit you're in pain to a woman. Both of those are equally terrifying, I think, implicitly for many men, right? And what does that say about men who claim to be protectors, who claim to want to invest in the people around them and be protective, right? You talk about, melanoma is a great example. Guess what? What does cancer do? Cancer makes you weak. Not having cancer cut out of you, you will get physically weak. You want to talk about things that make you look weak? Cachexia makes you weak, which is a manifestation of cancer. I think as men, we need to start reframing how we see medicine and how we engage with it, because wow. And this is a call into myself, Ashanti, because I've got Johnny Cole in my ear twice a day going, hey man, therapy would suit you. You'd love. I'm like, nah, I'm so busy. We have an exam this week, got an exam next week. I can't swing it. I can swing it. Anyone can swing it. You can swing. If you're listening to this, you can swing therapy.